happy Friday, and thanks for tuning into RadioFreeRhinecliff.com. And this show in particular, correct me if I'm Norm, I'm your host, Norm. I'm thrilled to be here tonight with Mr. Victor Britton.
Hello there.
Hello, Victor. Thanks so much for being here. Guess what happened today? First time ever in the history of the show, I got an email. On the show's website, there's a button to say, email Norm or whatever. And I got an email from Kim Leone. She said, first-time listener, please say hi to Vic from Alton, New Hampshire.
Yeah,
have a great conversation.
That's my sister-in-law's sister.
Your sister-in-law's sister.
Yeah.
Well, she says hi.
And I think my wife leaked. I was like, don't tell anybody. And Diane, told people. So hi, Kimmy.
Put it on Facebook and Instagram and stuff. So like millions of people have seen it, and probably half of them are tuned in. Also, a special shout out to your neighbor, used to be neighbor from across the street, Barry Berkowitz.
I think that's it. Yeah.
Barry.
You mean, yeah, it was Barry.
What was it?
Berkowski. Yeah.
Brown? No, is that the makeup person?
No,
anyway, Barry. He's
hi, Barry.
He's a guy from over there.
Yes.
Yeah. Hi, Barry.
Yeah. Barry says, Norm, he owes you everything.
Yeah. Well, I remind him of that all the time. Now, speaking of South Street, you live there. How long have you been there?
Diane and I moved in, I think, officially together in 91. I was, dating Diane prior to that. So, and she and her brother lived there, I think, from 87. So It's been a while. He got work in Europe, and we bought him out. So we lived together, and Diane and I lived together in Catskill prior to that. And then I lived up in Albany. This is all prior to being a teacher.
Oh, and what were you doing prior to being a teacher?
I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I think I went to RPI and barely got out of there alive, and wasn't sure what I wanted to do, and got a job in engineering, working for like a small design build section of a oil company up in Albany. And was pretty miserable. And during that, I started dating Diane, and she sort of helped me, figure out what I wanted to do, and decided to take the risk to try teaching.
How did she help you with that? Like, did you do what colors my parachute?
I would start to get depressed on Sunday afternoon, having to go back to work, and it was just something where there was fun parts about it, but I just knew I couldn't do it for decades. But the best part of the job was like explaining things to clients or architects, like why something works the way it does, or how it wouldn't work the way they wanted to do it. And
it sounds like the kind of thing that would make engineering a good job or enjoyable for you.
Yeah. I mean, there might have been a different niche of career that would have made me happy, but
right.
I started looking at the co-op jobs when I was at RPI, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I was a little lost there.
And what does that mean, co-op jobs?
The jobs you get while you're still in school. So like internship jobs. So with Raytheon and Bendix and these different companies that would try to recruit you.
Right. And so were you a mechanical or?
Yes, mechanical. Yeah.
Interesting. And you were interested in that in high school, I'm guessing.
I think I was lucky. I was in a very small high school, and I was good at math and science, and I just didn't overthink anything. So I was just like, I guess I'll just go into engineering. And I think I got 3 applications. I got MIT's application, and it was too long, so I was like, I'm not going there if the application's long. So I ended up just applying to RPI in UConn, and RPI had a nice brief application, so
it was a half a page.
Yeah, so I got in there,
put your paw print on it.
So, yeah. So,
and you talk about it. You said survived just now. Was it?
Yeah. Well,
was it not fun? Was it?
Yeah,
tough?
I think if I was still a teacher, I wouldn't have. But I think discovered other attributes to being free and in school, and so partied too much.
Right.
So that's what I mean by barely survived. I barely, got out.
Right.
So, and, I think because of that 5-year segue and the fact that I was more mature, and I was at New Paltz and doing fine, there was not too much inquisition about my grades at RPI.
Right.
So, and what I thought, in retrospect, made me a better teacher when I was ever on interview committees, and people would be like, "Well, their grades need to be like so high," and I was like, "That's not necessarily true." I thought it made me a better teacher. Kind of understanding how you could, kind of fall out of being a student.
Right.
So,
Huh.
anyway, that's sort of the.
And you
spark
said
notes
you
of it.
got to college and you were free, which makes
Yeah.
me wonder what high school was
Well,
like.
high school was fine. I think I lived kind of isolated from the high school, so it was a fairly big town, like 6 by 8 miles, and so I lived at one corner in Byram, Connecticut, is where I was living in high school, and I went to a parochial school, and so that was a long bus ride up to the opposite corner of the town. So it was until I was like 17 and could borrow my mother's car or something like that. There was just not a lot of stepping out the door and here's a party.
Right. And then you go to college and all of a sudden.
Right. And it was sort of a big fish small pond kind of thing, and so I think getting into the RPI, there with a class of 90 kids, it's just 90 kids, and so it's a little easier to shine.
Right.
So it's harder to shine when you're with a bunch of other math and science people.
And what were the favorite things you did at RPI? Do you remember which classes you really loved?
No.
Yeah.
No.
Because
No,
you were
I-
drunk the whole time, evidently.
Not the whole time.
Yeah.
What really I think got me through RPI was I started. It was like a work study job where this was 1983, 84. So they had a hotline where kids could. That was before the internet. Kids could call up with any question, and they could. So there was an old. I just remember one. We had a little binder we had to keep, and so any question you couldn't answer on the spot, you'd have to do research on it. And so one of the questions that we had to research was, what does the TJ and TJ Hooker stand for, which was like an old William Shatner show, I think.
Sure, I remember that.
And so...
I'm going with Thomas John.
Yeah. People would call up with crazy questions. But, the other part of that job, it was a job where you would be working from like 6 p.m. to midnight or something like that, maybe 1 a.m. It was a crisis hotline for like, kids that were feeling like hurting themselves.
Oh, okay.
And so we got training for that. So that really helped me.
So this is a different hotline than
No, it's the same one.
Oh, okay.
It was just there was a phone in the back room where you could talk to someone.
Okay.
And we didn't get too many calls, but you get calls once in a while, and you have to write up a thing. And
Right.
So I just think so. That was a good group of other students that worked with me there, and we went on little retreats and things like that. So
Right.
that was probably my favorite attribute to it, and that's really the group of people I'm still in touch with the most.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah.
And you said something about you were at New Paltz?
For getting my teacher credentials. So,
Okay, so that's after engineering school.
And after that job in Albany.
The job in Albany,
Yeah.
where you were doing what? You said you were...
I started off, going to both homes and businesses and selling heating and air conditioning systems. And so we would do anything from air conditioning in a house all the way to, I think the biggest job I ever bid on was maybe $220,000. Where you do like, schools. And so we would do the heating and air conditioning system and then plumbing sometimes for schools. And so I had done some work in the city, doing drafting and sizings for an engineer on 35th Street in the summers. And so I had experience in that.
Right.
And so it just sort of slipped into it.
Right.
Yeah.
And then Diane helped you decide what you wanted to do. And there must have been a lot of options for
I
you
didn't
at
feel
that
like there
point.
was a lot of options. No, she just supported me through that period of my life as I was, trying to figure it out.
And how did you figure it out and land on teaching?
I think it was partly, knowing that was, I still liked math and science. And I think I had learned that I liked dealing with people more. So it was just sort of a long shot. I was hoping I would like it. So I was like, let's try this and let's see what's involved to be able to teach in New York State. But I wasn't even sure what to teach. I was like looking at teaching math, chemistry, physics. And so, physics was relatively easier to get certification in.
Really?
Yeah. And it wasn't a time where there was a lot of cash flow. So I had to, find something where I could start making money again.
I wonder why physics would be easier to get certified in.
Because of the courses that I had in the engineering background.
I see.
So that was
Gotcha.
why. Yeah.
Huh. So you got certified in physics at New Paltz.
Yeah.
When did you graduate? Do you recall? What year?
Well, I didn't. You get a provisional certification,
Okay.
and then you have to get a master's degree within a certain period of time. So I tried to put that off as long as possible. So I was getting my master's while I was teaching at Rhinebeck.
Oh.
And so I think I finished that maybe in the year 2000, and I started at Rhinebeck probably in 93 or 94. I mean, I was doing a lot of little small things, but at the high school, probably 94 was my first, appointment to a part-time. I think I was 60% a teacher in 94 at Rhinebeck.
What do you mean 60% of a teacher?
Not full-time. So
Okay,
like 0.6.
gotcha.
Yeah.
So you got your provisional certification at New Paltz, and now people, I guess, hire somebody who has that. They're not bothered that you don't have the master's degree. How did you end up in Rhinebeck?
Well, I was going to New Paltz. I student taught with Carl Mayer, who was a physics teacher in Rhinebeck. So that really helped me get a job in Rhinebeck eventually. I mean, I went from student teaching in Rhinebeck to working at Holy Cross up the road here.
Right.
For one summer. And then I got actually the first job was at the old Bulkley. I was per diem subbing
On South Street.
on South, right across from where I live.
Yeah.
And I was per diem subbing, and Pat Zeisler, the principal at the time, said, would you be interested in taking on 8 or 9 kids that are just so much trouble in the classroom? So my first job was actually teaching 8 or 9 7th graders math, science, English, social studies, and a structured study hall. So that was my first. And that was just a short-term assignment to get them to the end of the school year because they were causing problems in the regular classroom.
And had you studied special techniques on dealing with problem kids?
No, but I had a lot of problem people I knew in my life, so that helped. No, it was a lot. Diane probably remembers that was a very hard period of time because the kids were, that's a hard age to deal with to begin with because they're wonderful one-on-one, but when you get them, I mean, people are wonderful one-on-one, but I always find when you get people in groups of more than 4 or 5, all bets are off.
Yeah.
And our worst comes out. So that's especially true in middle school, I think.
Right. It's a terrible time for peer pressure.
Yeah. I think it's when we're all trying to figure out what's important to us.
And doing anything we can to fit in and belong, which is probably not the stuff that's really, elementally important to the kids that age.
Right. Right.
So how did you do with these kids?
I survived. It was hard, but it certainly, and it's like weightlifting. You get stronger when you endure things.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I did a summer class at Holy Cross, and then I worked for almost a year at New Paltz, teaching 7th grade life science. And then I think the next year is when I started at the high school, which would have been 94.
So you went to New Paltz because they no longer had work here in Rhinebeck?
That was just a short-term thing. So those kids, I think at that point, the middle school there only went to 7th grade, and they went on to the high school. Right. So as far as the principal was concerned, they weren't her problem anymore.
Right.
So it was, and I wasn't looking to continue doing that. And when I worked at Holy Cross, there were possible jobs at Holy Cross, but these were adjudicated, any felony without a weapon. Those were the kids that we had at Holy Cross.
Oh,
and,
wow.
And they were easier in a lot of ways than the kids I had at the middle school.
Any felony without a weapon.
Right.
Well, those are the hiring criteria here at Radio Free Rhinebeck.
That's right. That's right. Well, make sure you stick to it.
Yeah. Or keep it all hidden away. So you came back. You're young. You're in your 20s, I'm guessing.
Yes.
And Rhinebeck called and said, "Hey, there's a full-time job."
I forget actually how how I found out about it, but it was started out I think as a 0.4 or 0.5, and so I was teaching what they called a local level biology and regions physics, And then I think it was open house, which those are usually early October. And the superintendent at the time, Peter Bickford, came up to me and he's like, "You have to know some calculus to teach physics." And I was like, "Yeah, a little." And so that particular year, there was a group of kids that were pretty advanced. And so the parents had approached him and wanted him to create a Calculus 2 class,
Right.
AP Calculus BC. And so this was October. So he said, "Can you get that up and running?" And I needed, money. So I was like, "Sure." And so 3 days later.
And had you done well in calculus and
No.
differential equations and that shit?
Oh, differential equations. So no, that was an 8 o'clock class, and I lived downtown, and I had to walk up that hill.
Which hill is this?
In Troy, RPI is
Okay.
the shining beacon,
The Diffie
beacon
Cube
of learning
class
on the
was
hill, and I
too early morning.
lived down by DeBonus's Tavern on 4th Street.
So the superintendent says, "Hey, we want you to teach Calc 2."
Yeah.
And you're like, "Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Can do. No
Well,
problem."
I made it. I mean, I was a hard worker. I made it a self-paced class because I had taken some of those, and I knew all the children that were going to be in this class, and so they were way smarter than me. So I would give them things to do, and then they would just say, I'm ready for a test, and I would give them a test. They would go to, it was a small group, right? It wasn't like 28 kids. It was just 8 or 9 kids. And so they would go take their test. I would correct it. And if they did well enough, they would move on to the next unit. So I was never at the blackboard.
Right.
And they were working together, helping each other. One of these students was I think a junior, and Caltech just took him. He didn't graduate from high school. He just went to Caltech. And so this was the level of human being that I was.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So at least him, but did the other kids in the class, you described them as all smarter than you. Did any of them realize that or feel that?
They were sweet. So they were an exceptionally graceful group of teenagers. So I don't think they would have dwelled on it. And I think they were happy with how, as long as there's an equilibrium,
Right.
they were happy with how things were going. They weren't complaining. So.
Right. And what does that mean in equilibrium, sort of with regards to a calculus class?
It's just a word that popped into my head. I think there was just contentment. So there was something for them to do. I was doing something for them. So
Right.
I was providing the material and grading their tests, and if they didn't, and I would always hope they would pass it because I would have to make a new test that I didn't have if they. So I'd be up even later that night previously, like coming up with a test and an answer key.
Right.
So,
And this is, I'm guessing, the years before the internet.
yes.
So where would you go to find that stuff?
They had things. There was a book. There was a couple books I had. So I'd use a book or two. And I
Right.
think I had 3 books, and I would just put it together.
3 calculus 2 or differential equation books.
And there were Calculus 1 books because it was the AP curriculum would take things out of it from. So.
Right.
Are you sure this is interesting, Norm?
It is to me.
Okay.
I get a lot of complaints like, "Why'd you ask about that?" I'm like, "Well, I'm curious." But also, I mean, you said in your LinkedIn profile that classroom management was one of your special skills. And so
I didn't say that. Somebody probably put that there. I would have never put
some
that.
scofflaw broke into your LinkedIn account.
No. I think people. I'm really not a LinkedIn
People
person.
recommend.
But,
I guess.
I mean, it's nice because I can occasionally converse with students, and it was good because some of the students that I had became adults, and I brought some of them back to speak to the class. So it was a good way to get adult former students to come back and speak to the current students, which usually the kids like that.
Right.
But classroom management's hard.
What is classroom management?
It's basically, maintaining equilibrium. So, you want, each student to feel engaged so that they're not doing things that prevent others from being engaged.
Right. Huh. And at some points, I imagine, what you just retired. What grades were you teaching?
Mostly 11th and 12th, mostly 12th graders,
Okay.
which was much easier to manage than middle school. I wouldn't have
Yeah, I'll
wanted to
bet.
be a middle school teacher.
Right. It's tough. But still, you must have had classes throughout your tenure as a teacher that were just impossible to handle.
They were stressful to handle. So yeah, I had some, but this is Rhinebeck. I wasn't like disarming kids.
Right.
I mean, I was involved in maybe breaking up a few fights over the years, but I was never worried for my safety.
Yeah.
At Holy Cross, we had attendance officers, which were burly people that would, restrain kids when they got out of control.
If they brought a handgun to school.
Well, they were living on campus.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, did you ever meet Betty White? That used to live in town.
No.
My first job there was actually in the dorm. So when the kids first arrived, when the police dropped them off, they would go to the orientation dorm, and so I had a classroom in the middle of that dorm, and I would evaluate the kids, and then set up like work packets for them and help them through. But their beds were literally 15, 25 feet down the hallway from where the classroom was.
I love that you said when the police dropped them off.
Well, because these were people that were there because of the court.
Right. Huh. And so it was sort of like their punishment was school.
Well, I mean, you can extrapolate that.
But
their punishment was not to be at home anymore.
Right.
And so, and because they're youth, they probably are legally entitled to education. So I wouldn't say the school was their punishment.
Right.
Being removed from their environs was their punishment. And
right.
The going to that school was a byproduct of that.
Right. Oh, that's tough. And you said you saw during your tenure a couple of fights. What in your physics class? What kind of things did kids fight about? Like,
there was no fights in the classroom.
Oh, okay.
I'm a good classroom manager, Norm. There would never be a fight in the classroom.
It says that right on LinkedIn.
That's the hallway or the cafeteria.
I see.
So that's usually
it's not about
usually
like
over
who's
saving face.
Right. He gads. And so, did you ever get involved? Have to break up fights? Were you ever sort of the one on the scene in Rhinebeck? I mean, they didn't have guards.
I don't have any traumatic memories of it. Yeah, but you would, a lot of times people don't want to fight. So.
Right. All right. I want to go back to your first trip here.
Good idea.
What did you think of this little town when you first set foot? Had you been here prior to that first temporary job?
Oh yeah, I was living here. So I started in Rhinebeck, right? So
living at Diane's house.
If we go back to the timeline, right? So,
okay.
So 1991. It was when I sort of was, before I was even a teacher, that's when I started going to school at New Paltz.
Oh, okay.
So to answer your question, Rhinebeck was even more charming back in the 80s than it is now.
Yeah, how so?
It was just, it's kind of like a Red Hook light. If you think about Red Hook 10 years ago, that's because Red Hook is going through its own transformation now. That's what Rhinebeck was, like a sleepy little mini version of Red Hook.
Right.
And it was much more blue collar. And, the at 5 o'clock, the village was much quieter than it is now.
Right.
Le Petit Bistro used to be the smoke shop, and
the
copper kettle.
And where was the copper kettle?
I think where pizza is.
Okay. And was it like a similar place, like a coffee shop?
It was like a little coffee shop, yeah.
Huh.
And there was, Skemmies.
Yeah. And where
IGA,
did you, what was that?
The IGA. Yeah.
And where did you like to go out to eat in Rhinebeck in the late 80s?
Diane and I liked to go to Victoria's Peak, which was a Chinese restaurant where the burnt out diner is.
Okay.
On Route 9.
Right.
That was good. It was always nice and quiet. I like a quiet restaurant, so that we would go like on a night, like, a Sunday night or something when it was less busy.
Yeah.
The French place up where the Warren Cutlery is. Chez Marcel, I think was the name of that. That was fun to go if we had people visiting, and they were a nice sort of country French restaurant.
Right.
I can't remember the name of it. There's a now vacant restaurant where someone lives on the way to Red Hook that used to be Mariko's. I think it used to be a Japanese restaurant. That was good.
Oh yeah, that place.
Yeah.
There was something there. I'm trying to remember what. I think it was just sort of like
was it an Irish Mexican blend restaurant? There you go.
What was it? Lenahan and Lopez. That's good. That's a good name for an Irish and Mexican place.
Yeah, there used to be the place where there was that perpetually closed Indian restaurant on Route 9 used to be the Fox Hollow Inn, I think.
Down south of here.
Yeah, and then there was a really rough bar where Market Street is. There was a Rhinebeck Tavern, and it had like sawdust on the floor, and so it was so different. Things have changed a lot.
Yeah.
So and the high school sort of changed with it. And on the opening day of rifle season for deer, there was a noticeable less students in school because they were, these days they would be out protecting instead of
throwing
like, shooting
themselves in front of
don't you kill
dogs.
Bambi.
Yeah. Huh. And it's probably still like that in some other districts around here.
Maybe.
Where there's more rural districts, more sort of like, I'm going to say nature focused, more living, with the land and on the land kind of stuff.
No, I bet you Taconic Hills, that's definitely, I bet you the case up there.
Yeah.
So, because I know a few teachers that come from there.
Huh. And was there, you were from Connecticut in high school?
I grew up, I went to, I was from Connecticut.
So was there any culture shock coming to this small town?
Well, Byram's like part of Greenwich, and so Rhinebeck has become Greenwich Light.
And how do you feel about that?
Oh, it is what it is.
Yeah.
So it's hard to. I mean, we live in a capitalism, Norm.
Yeah. No way. Well, if you could bring back anything from Rhinebeck in, let's say, 89, when you first moved. When did you first move here?
I was here on and off in the late 80s.
Okay.
First moved here in 91.
If you could bring back anything, what would you bring back?
The IGA.
Really?
And the old hardware store.
Uh-huh.
I mean, I had to do, it was great. I remember I rented a backhoe that was in back there, and I drove it to my house so it was this great having a hardware store you could walk to.
Right.
So it wasn't a big backhoe, but it was sort of like, and just rented it and drove it. And
they had them in the back parking lot.
Yeah, they did. Back where, it's all cobblestone now.
Right.
Back by Merriweather's and...
Right.
That's
amazing. I find that hard to imagine. Huh. And
I'm not even like, you should really get some old timers on here if you want to do this. Like I'm like a relatively new transplant.
How long does it take to be an old timer?
How much? It happens too fast.
Well, yeah, it happens too fast.
Yeah.
So did you ever think about going somewhere else during that stretch?
Which stretch?
It's a stretch of time that you lived here.
No, well, I mean, I wasn't unhappy, and I felt fortunate to be able to teach where I did, and it was a nice place. And once, our son was born in 1995, and so it was a great place to have David grow up.
Right.
And it's a great school. I mean, my colleagues and the ones still there, and the ones that I don't know, they're great teachers. So it's I really believe in public schools, and it was even though Rhinebeck's not necessarily a cross section of New York State or the United States of America. It was a great place to raise our son, and
right,
a great place to live.
And he had a good experience in school here.
Definitely.
Where is he now?
He lives in Brooklyn. He went to NYU, and he's now a professor there.
Oh, sweet.
Yeah.
And what is he a professor of?
He's in the film school. He's a professor of sound. He teaches a class on music and film, and 2 on sound and film.
And was he interested in that stuff in high school?
He definitely was. He fell in with a great group of friends that they ran around with video cameras, and he and some of his friends made films, and they were submitted to the Woodstock Film Festival. He was in the Woodstock Film. All that stuff helped him produce a portfolio, which helped him get into that school.
Right.
And so, it was a great experience for him. Especially, I think he didn't love school in middle school, and then about 9th grade, he was really loving school.
Oh, that must have been fun for his parents to see.
I'd rather have that than the flip of it, yeah. So it's better to struggle in middle school and then flourish in high school.
Yeah.
And whenever parents were stressed out, I would tell them that the prettiest flowers are the late bloomers. So don't worry.
It's a good one.
And I would also tell them that the At 17, the cake is pretty much baked, so don't try to change anything too much.
Right. It was tough for me as a parent at a certain point to be like, well, the cake is done.
Right.
I don't know what I can do now.
Just add sprinkles.
Yeah, add sprinkles, hopefully. Hopefully. So was Diane a teacher as well?
Diane worked at IBM. So she went to liberal arts school, and she got a master's in technical communication at RPI. And I had a friend at RPI that actually introduced us. And we were friends for a long time before we started dating, for a decent amount of time, I would say.
Right.
I can't do the math.
And do you remember how that happened? That's always an interesting transition from friends to dating.
Yeah, she had set me up with one of her friends, and then that relationship didn't work out, and we were spending a lot of time together. So I think, and that was good for our marriage to actually, be friends before we became romantic.
Right. And how long you been married?
Since 1993. So it's 33 years.
That's a pretty good stretch. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Any tips for people to make it that long?
Yeah, you want to be friend with your spouse.
Right.
And you want to be patient. She's very patient with me. So
yeah. Is she still working?
She retired shortly after I did. So in 2024, I retired in 2023.
And how did you make that decision to retire?
I feel like teaching is a great job. I feel like so unless you're wired a certain way, especially as an older adult, it's a very high energy profession where you don't want to be shriveling up as you're going into the classroom too much.
Right.
For me, we had a lot of sick people in our family, and so I probably, in retrospect, could have taken a leave of absence, but I was like gearing towards retirement because my sister was sick, my mother was sick, and so that certainly reinforced the decision because I wanted to spend more time, and they both had lived in Florida, so that was the first part of my retirement was being with them. So my sister passed away that August, and then my mother passed away that November, and then I started taking care of that. There was a little lady that used to live on Center Street in that yellow house, and so I was helping her.
Oh, right.
And then she passed away.
And that didn't, like a couple of years ago, not that long ago. If we're thinking the same.
Yeah, I'm thinking she in 2024.
Yeah.
Is when she passed away.
Right. Oh, that's sweet. And how did that come to pass? You just knew her. No, it is. It's when you took care. She had a husky. Right.
And we had a little fuzzy dog, and they sort of bonded, and she certainly bonded with our dog, and so I would bring our dog over to play with her dog,
right.
At least one day a week, and so.
And what was her name?
Joy.
Joy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw her around all the time.
Right.
And she really was just the dictionary picture of the little old lady. She was so frail and thin, and yet somehow seemed so strong, and was always smiley. We'd never met, and she was always smiling and waving and stuff.
Yeah, she was she was a teacher and then became a principal, and then she worked at the Antique Center.
Okay.
Behind the Beekman.
And what are you doing with your retirement?
I think I'm still figuring that out. So it was that after everybody sort of got sick and died, it was sort of like, okay, let's figure this out. So I think, the biggest structural thing that I do is Diane and we deliver for Meals on Wheels in Hyde Park at least once every other week. I joined the board. So if anybody of the millions of listeners out there would like to volunteer at Meals on Wheels of Hyde Park, they deliver to Rhinebeck Village.
Okay.
There's 5 routes. So I spend a fair amount of time on that. Not a lot of time, but,
And so how does that work? You have a car, you drive to Hyde Park, you get some meals, and you drop them off at people's front porches?
Yeah, or knock on the door and go in. Some people, our route, there's not too many social visits. So, but on other routes, they're more social. Right. Where you go in and say hello. And so it's a wellness check for some of the folks so that, because we have a little binder, and so if things aren't right, if they don't want a social interaction, they're supposed to have a bag out where the food goes. So if that's not out and you can't, nobody answers the door, then you have, their son or daughter's phone that you call and that sort of thing.
Right.
So they.
And what percentage of people do that? Put the bag out because they don't want to mess with
on our route. I think it's probably we have maybe 12 stops, and so maybe 8 will have the bag out. And if they have an appointment or something, that's what they'll do, is put the bag out. So they, there's standing instructions too in case they're not there. But there's a couple folks that sort of like it, and they meet us at the door.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you go in, and is there a limit to how long you can sit and talk with these people? The ones who want.
So yeah, I went a few minutes because there's people waiting for their food. And one thing I can tell you as a retired person, if something isn't happening when it's supposed to be happening, you get pretty cranky. So if you get too chatty, people that are at the end of the line be like, "Where's my, pot roast?"
I guess that makes sense. And so they know what's coming.
There's a menu they could, if they want to know, they probably like to be surprised, Norm, but if they want to know, they can find out. They have a menu each week.
Right. Huh. How did you get involved with that? It sounds like a lovely pursuit.
I think the main reason was because Diane's mom, when she was trying to stay at home, we had it for her in Pennsylvania, and it was a great help to know that, she was getting a nutritious meal.
And a wellness check.
And a wellness check, right.
Right.
And we really, I didn't want to get involved in anything too political, so this is a nice way to help.
Yeah.
Where you're just doing something to help.
Right. That's just great. And so 7 meals a week these people get?
Most of them opt for, you get 2 meals a day, so 10 meals a week. So on weekdays. And then we put together like what's called a blizzard bag, so that because we, if Hyde Park schools are closed, there aren't any deliveries. And so we give them some like food that they can, like tuna fish in a little pouch that you can rip open, and crackers and things like that.
Right.
That are shelf stable. Right. That they can eat in case we don't
starve through the blizzard.
Right. So
that's a nice thing to do in your retirement. And you said you're trying to figure out what else you're going to do.
Yeah, but I'm not in any hurry. I mean,
right.
I have a lot of friends that have retired, and they seem to, like, oh, I'm bored. And so I can always find something to do. I mean, the house is high maintenance. The yard is high maintenance. And there's, friends in the area, and, we'll just get into the car and go someplace in the region that we haven't been before. So it's nice to be with somebody that's retired too, so that we can just go and do something.
Right.
And Barry will give me ideas.
Oh, right. Barry Billingsley.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's nice. So what are some of the highlights of the things that you've seen in the area? Assuming in like sort of regional?
I always am impressed with Columbia County. There's so many pretty things up there.
Yeah.
The landscapes are so, I wouldn't want to have to go drive to get a gallon of milk in some of the places. So there's some waterfalls up there that are pretty, and some trails up there. We've gone to Ulster County to different places. So even that paved walk, the Sojourner Truths walk that Steve Rosenberg wasn't, that his group, the Land Conservancy group.
Yeah.
So there's all kinds of, there's the Burroughs. I think there's a nature preserve right there. That's John Burroughs.
The John Burroughs.
Yeah, that's neat. Back there's some neat stuff back there. So there's a lot of things. We're fortunate to live in a place where there's a lot of things to do.
It's amazing.
It really is.
It's such a great place. I'm like, well, why do I want to go on vacation anywhere? I live in the place where people want to come for vacation.
Well, you might want to get out for a little while.
I'm pretty happy. I'm kind of a homebody. And do you all travel? Lots of people travel in their retirement.
Yeah, we went to see, Diane's brother lives in Thailand, so we went to Thailand for 3 or 4 weeks last year. And then we're going to see our friend Leslie in New Zealand.
Oh, nice. And she's down in Queenstown?
Correct.
Huh. How long are you going for?
A month.
Great. Make it longer.
Yeah, we're trying to do the hard trips while our bodies are semi-functional.
Oh,
know.
are you going to do some of the treks? There's famous hikes there.
A little bit. It'll just be nice to be there. We're definitely going to. I think they call them tracks instead of trails.
Right.
There, so we'll go around. We're going to go to Milford Sound, and then we've got things semi-planned out. We don't like to be over-planned.
Right.
And when we get really old, we'll go on to one of those little stupid river cruises for Panthea. You know,
Give you a stick to
there'll be a
poke the
lady with an
wildlife with.
accent, calling us out. It's time to go wherever.
Right. Keep your arms inside the cart. And you also, I follow you on Instagram. One of the things you seem to have taken up a lot is like photographing birds at your bird feeder.
Well, I put, you call it a trail cam enthusiast, which I thought sounded creepy.
Well, I mean, the trail cam, I'm not even thinking of the trail cam. I mean, the trail cam, you saw bears and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah,
And
it's been fun. It started during COVID because you're, home and, doing what you could do to, try to teach. Diane's father was in a facilities and he loved birds. So we would try to, show him different things. So that's how I think it got started. We would feed the birds more. I was like, oh, let me look for a camera. So my brother-in-law said, well, try these, they're really not trail cams. They're like house security cams, but they're just on batteries and you can move them around. So that's how it started. And so I would make like a little, picture file or video file to show him when we saw him on Zoom during COVID.
Right.
So that's how it started. And, I'm not really like a sort of a joiner in the sense that I'm just going to show you what I'm going to have for dinner tonight on my social media, right? That kind of thing. So, but I don't mind putting birds on. So that sort of just went on Instagram. So there you go.
Yeah.
I haven't posted something probably in 2 months.
And there's a joke, as soon as you retire, you start to like know what kind of all about birds. Has that been kind of your trajectory?
Well, I know about the ones that come I'm not a birder.
Right.
I know about so I can identify what comes to the yard now. So, but I wouldn't, other than just sort of like, that was sort of the fun. It's like, like a kid with a Pokemon. It's like, what's that? And so so now I don't typically post anything unless it's something new. So,
right.
It's like nobody wants to see another tufted titmouse.
I don't mind. But the pictures are really nice, like right there at the bird feeder.
Well, that's good. I'm glad you like them. Yeah, it's fun. I'll post more, Norm.
Yeah, please do.
Norm's creepy.
Have there been birds that you've seen and just been really excited about? I mean, did you get any sort of like rare birds there?
It was in the beginning. So I think we had a snowy winter in 2021. And so there was birds that I don't normally see, like pine siskins and red poles. And so I haven't seen them since that year. And I just think there was so much snow that they were having trouble finding food.
Right.
And they came, they probably read about Rhinebeck on TripAdvisor or something.
Yeah.
And like, check it out.
Or Yelp.
Yeah. So, and birds aren't nice to each other. There are some that are less mean to each other, but when you really watch them, they're not. They're mean to each other.
I noticed that a few years ago. The robins by my house are just horrible to each other.
Well, that's on your end of South Street.
It's the rough end
on
of
my
South
end
Street.
of South Street, they're all
admittedly.
nice.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
It's got to stick to the western side.
Yeah, we got like non-firearm felony robins at my end.
So I think what interested me in birds, I remember asking, we had a French teacher at the school that's retired that was a real birder, Ernie Welch.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a bird way up high. And I said, Ernie, what is that? And it was a chimney swift. And he said, those birds don't land on the ground. They can't actually be on the ground. Their legs aren't adapted to the ground. So they only land on vertical surfaces. And they're in the air almost all the time. Which I found that fascinating that,
Right.
this bird is flying around all the time. And they're up there eating bugs.
How in the world do you do that?
I've tried.
It's like hummingbirds. Have you tried?
Yes.
I wanted to ask about the bears and other mammals that you see.
Mammals.
Mammals.
There's not too many bears around, but yeah, I caught a bear, and I posted. Everybody was pretty excited about that. Tammy
Yeah.
was very concerned. Um, and I think I got a bobcat once.
And this
and
is
just
in your
walked right by the house.
in your backyard,
Yeah,
in the
we
village
have
of
a
Rhinebeck.
lot of fox that live. The woods. The house up on the hill a
Yeah.
little bit further west from me. So there's woods back there. So there's fox that live back there.
And do they have a trail that goes down to Crystal Lake, that house? On the
They
hill?
do. I mean, we can walk from our yard down to Crystal Lake. They've stopped cutting back there, so it's getting overgrown. But that's where when they dredged. Crystal Lake used to be the swimming hole before we had a pool in Rhinebeck, and so they bulldozed it out to make it a little bit deeper, maybe 50 years ago, and all the sediment was kind of put onto this little plateau across from where Roger Quan lives, and across from Huntington.
Okay.
And so that's the field you can walk across to Crystal Lake.
Huh. And so you were right on it. Did you swim? Do you swim now in Crystal Lake?
No,
But you used to.
not on purpose. Not on purpose. I think, there are microorganisms that tend to, there's no sewer system on that side of town, and there's more housing than there used to be. And I wouldn't recommend swimming in there in August. I think you could probably get away with it in June, but when the temperature's up, it doesn't.
Because of the septic systems on the south side of...
I just think it's prudent because there's other places to swim.
Right.
You don't have to swim there.
Other swimming holes around.
Yeah.
And where are those?
You can go to Woodstock and hang out with all the hippies in those rock streams.
Yeah.
And there's Barry told us about, there's that nice waterfall by Montgomery Place, which is probably barred property, but
Right.
probably won't bother you.
Huh. I don't know about the nice waterfall.
I'll send you a link. No, that's fine. There's no secrets.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Huh.
it's a nice little trail. You have to retire, Norm.
Yeah. Well, someday soon. So you retired. Do you miss anything about teaching?
I miss the kids. I mean, that was always the nice part of it. I like science, and so there was fun things to teach. But no, it's nice to have the lack of structure
Right.
and not feel like you've got to do this. But there's, of course, you miss some of it. If you did it for 30 years and you weren't miserable, there's got to be some things about it you like that you didn't miss.
Right.
So, and kids are funny. They're not spoiled yet by the world.
Right.
So
The 11th and 12th graders.
yeah, so they're easy not to get mad at because they're kids, and so
Right.
they're
And
still figuring it out.
And they all seemed to really like you. All my kids who had you just loved you.
I try not to make waves. So it's easier that way.
Yeah. And how did that go for you?
Great, obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's nice. But sometimes the waves just sort of find you anyway.
Well, but not the waves I made.
Oh, I see.
Right.
They were good. They didn't circle around.
Yeah. No,
Oh.
I'm very lucky to be in Rhinebeck, and so as long as Rhinebeck wasn't for there's a lot of high expectation children here, where they have high expectations of their experiences, and their parents even more so. So it's hard for a new teacher here that's figuring it out, and so
Right.
there's definitely a pressure on the administration to bring a teacher in that's got it figured out, because there's not a lot of patience with somebody that's learning on the job.
Finding their
teaching
way.
is learning on the job.
Yeah.
You have to. It doesn't come out of the box ready.
Right.
So
So do you hear from past students?
not too much. I try not to be too clingy, and
Right.
set them free, kind of a thing. So
Yeah.
just the ones that I see, but occasional conversations on LinkedIn. I'll see their parents in town,
Yeah.
but not too much.
Right. And did you ever have waves with the parents? Parents can be notoriously difficult for teachers.
Not too many, I mean, it's people are people. I mean, I had someone tell me that, you need to do this. I pay your salary, but that, that's part of the world.
I'm sorry I said that to you.
Was that you?
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's good to hear. So no waves. I can just keep poking around to find waves. What about in the village? What's happening with the Father Brogan Center
I don't
across
know.
the street from you?
You need to
That
bring Maish in here. He's
I should.
Yeah. So, because I don't know. I don't know.
That thing.
I've sort of gone through the stages of the Elizabeth Kubler-Ross stages with that.
Yeah.
And so, it is what it is.
Right.
But I felt like I did what I could do because I didn't want just stuff packed in for maximum economic efficiency.
Right.
And, the going thinking now is that more density is better. And so there are decision makers in the village that I think would consider adding floors to the some of the village buildings, adding extra stories.
Right.
But you get old and you sort of like it how it is.
Yeah.
Right. And so that's part of it. So it's everybody's village, and so they'll figure it out. But I don't know where that's at.
Right.
It is now set up so that there can be 2 houses built on South Street, 2 houses built on Market Street, and apartments built in the old building.
Was that plan approved?
Yeah, the zoning has been approved.
Okay.
There's no permits. They have to get, I think, demolition permits first, and
Right.
I don't know, but I don't think there is any because they're taking off some of the building, the back of the old gym, and the newer addition to the.
I'm sure that thing is just an asbestos mine.
My understanding is it's only in the floor adhesive, which is, they'll have to do something about that, but it's
Right.
not as they call it friable. If asbestos can get into the air easily,
Right.
so it's not as friable as other types.
Well, that's good to hear.
Yeah, but you can worry about it. I mean, if you want to worry about stuff,
Yeah, sure. You'll have spare time.
I can assure you that whatever asbestos is in there, it's non-GMO.
Yeah,
So
that's right.
yeah,
Is it fair trade asbestos?
it was probably produced prior to that word existing, that phrase existing.
Where does asbestos come from anyway?
It's a mineral. I think it's a mineral.
Really?
And it doesn't burn easily, so it was used as fire protection and as an insulation. But it's very fine particles that can get in your lungs and cause irritation that can cause
Right.
cancer. So
Yeah, and what's mesothelioma or
Right.
is that what it's called?
that's correct.
So you got this job teaching physics, but you hadn't really been studying physics. You didn't have a degree in physics. So you're learning on the job.
Well, I knew the physics. It was high school physics. And the college, when I taught the AP class, I had to work at that a little bit.
Okay.
Just because it's, it had been since 1983 when I took that course. And teaching is different than passing a test.
Right.
So,
What were some of the coolest things you learned, sort of getting up to speed on physics?
well, I think the thing I liked to teach the most was when we would transition from, large scale physics like, F equals ma and momentum to static electricity. So I would spend the class, trying to impress upon the kids how small things are, and talk about like how atoms are small. So I would, go through the mathematical basis of how, one of the things was like, you take a breath and blow it in a balloon, and there are as many atoms in that balloon as there are balloonfuls of air in the Earth's atmosphere.
You gads.
And things like that. Just to get them a sense of scale, because you
Right.
as a human being, you live on the Earth and think, so you just get used to everything. And when you get down to the atomic level, it's like so many orders of magnitude smaller than us
Right.
that it's difficult to comprehend.
Yeah.
So, so that was always for me, I liked that. I don't know if they liked it,
Right.
but I liked that because it's like when you look out at the sky and you think about, the solar system and the galaxies and how big the universe is. That's always, and that was, when there was like extra time and things like that, I would talk about space and the types of probes that we were sending out.
Right.
And these were the early days, before Elon had revealed what a shit he is. With the rockets landing on the barges and things like that, which was a big accomplishment.
Right. Huh.
But now you look up and you see, the bad part is you look up, and maybe it's a good thing, I don't know, but you look up And if I'm cooking something at the grill on a dark night, and I look up, I can probably spot 12 satellites that we put up just in that 10 minutes.
And there's that long one, Space Link or
Starlink.
Starlink, is that it? Which the first time I saw it, I was so freaked out. We were
you saw the train of, before they got, because they're,
There's like a dozen in this train.
Yeah.
And
did you think they were coming for you?
Yeah. Yeah, coming for me, special. We were certain that it was some kind of UFO. Because what in the sky would ever be like that? And it was moving nice and slow across the horizon.
They're moving at 17,000 miles per hour. That's what's fun about it. That's how fast they have to move so they don't fall down.
17,000 miles an hour.
Right. That's how fast. That's why it's so hard, because you have to get something going about, 18 times faster than a bullet without breaking it.
Right.
So that it's falling. It's just falling as fast as the round Earth curves away. So it's falling without getting closer. That's what orbit is.
Okay,
right?
You lost me on that.
Well, when you're in, like, those things are not that far from the planet, so they still have 90% of their weight at that altitude.
Gotcha.
So they're falling, but they're moving sideways fast enough so that as they fall down a certain distance, the Earth's round surface curves away the same distance.
Okay.
Are you a flat earther, Norm?
Yeah, that's what's confusing to me.
Okay.
Because
I was wondering why you looked. You had this look. I was like, he looks just like my students.
That's my default look when we discuss difficult concepts. Well, that's so much fun. Do you listen to Bob Berman there on WAMC?
I've heard him. Yeah. He sounds like a nice person.
Talking about the celestial.
Yeah. I used to. But when I had that other job prior to teaching, I would take lunch in the car because I was traveling around and eat my lunch and listen to his little cosmic minute on WAMC.
Yeah. That's good stuff. So. Now, do you like have you're pointing to your watch.
No, I'm impressed, Norm. You're such a natural at this. It's already 5:56.
Right, we have 1 minute left.
You have such a gift.
Go on.
No wonder you share it with the world.
Yeah, the world. Well, the millions of listeners.
Right.
So, do you have a telescope? Do you look at the night sky like that?
Telescopes are kind of disappointing. So unless you want to look at Saturn, which that's kind of fun, or the moon. Right. When you look at a star in a telescope, you see a star. It doesn't really look that different.
Right.
I have an old telescope that's not one of those ones that fixates on things and turns with the Earth's rotation, but it's usually like during a full moon. It's nice because you can see the shadows of the craters and things like that.
Right. Huh. So. Well, as I mentioned, we're out of time. What did I forget to ask you?
Nothing. You're very gifted.
Yeah, thank you. I think I got to everything that I wanted to ask you about. So, Victor Britton, thank you so much for being here.
Oh, and thank you to Diane, Barry, and Kimmy.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, Barry Berman.
There we go.
It's Barry Berman. Yeah. And thanks for bringing a beer. As is the tradition, and correct me if I'm Norm, you brought in a beverage for us to enjoy.
Don't tell Officer Scattergood.
And it's a beer from right here at the Fabulous Epicurean, which we thank for hosting this radio station. Thanks to producer extraordinaire Jen Hammoud. Thanks to everybody for tuning in. Have a great Friday night and a fabulous weekend.
Take care.